In Phyrexia all will be one. The driving force is the new toxic mechanic that's a far better version of Infect. This is where black and green creatures excel, and Golgari decks are some of the strongest that take advantage of the poison counters. You only need to score 10 of them on your opponent to win the game. First off, remember that proliferate adds a poison counter on your opponent, provided they have at least one. This means that the early cast creatures with Toxic are very valuable assets. Pestilent Saphoner is one of the best creatures in the set despite being a common. This little guy can win you games since there's little counterplay to a flyer cast this early, and you should at least score some easy poison counters on your enemy that can be proliferated later on. Speaking of proliferate, you should be grabbing cards that do that regardless of your opponent's actions. Firsting Roots is a very versatile spell that lets you grab the missing land, but later in the game it's an extra proliferate for an additional poison counter. Drowning Ichor is a fantastic removal spell for only 2 mana that proliferates. Gulping Scrap Trap is a bit costly for a 4/4 creature, but it also proliferates twice, so keep that in mind when picking mid-tier creatures. Unnatural Restoration is an amazing green uncommon that proliferates for only 2 mana, and Copper Longlegs is a decent blocker against small cheap early attackers, especially those pesky white 2/2s with First Strike and Flyers. The option to proliferate makes the Spider a great addition to the deck. Similarly, the Blightbelly Rat can be cast early enough to either score a poison counter from Toxic or to proliferate from a trade with one of your opponent's creatures as an early defender. From the more costly spells, Vat Emergence can turn the tides in late game and it proliferates. Now, let's focus on getting the poison counters. Vraska's Fall is one of the best removal spells that poisons the opponent as a bonus. Infectious Inquiry is an excellent poisoning card drawer for only 3 mana. Noxious Assault is plain nasty when there's a stalemate situation with a lot of creatures on both sides. For smaller removal, Infectious Bite is one of the more versatile cards, which can take out the most annoying creature in your opponent's arsenal and is a pretty decent alternative to the more popular Ruthless Predation, which seems much better. But it's the bite that adds a nice poison counter. Let's move on to the toxic creatures. Don't focus on getting the big guys and try to build your quick casting base first, but also don't neglect the amazing green creatures that come with ridiculous amounts of toxic. Paladin of Predation is a massive 6/7 that scores a staggering 6 poison counters. Venomous Brutalizer is cheap, with 3 and an option to proliferate in late game, a solid choice. Plague Nurse is a 3/4 for 4 mana that gives an extra toxic to your gang of early toxic creatures. Similarly, Necrogen Communion gives toxic too in addition to whatever the enchanted creature already has. An amazing synergy card with the Siphoner. There's a 1 mana creature called Bilious Skulldweller that has Toxic 1 and Death Touch, a great early attacker which can take out bigger threats later in the match. Alternatively, go for Ichor Spit Basilisk. Although the extra defense costs additional mana, but it can survive against small attackers. Sheoldred's Head Cleaver is a great blocker, although it costs 4 mana. It has Menace though, which can become useful for scoring poison counters with its Toxic 2. Stinging Hive Master creates a might if sacrificed or killed and is a nice 3/2 creature for only 3 mana. And 3 mana is where you want most of your card costs to be. The early cast 2 and 3 mana creatures might not seem very powerful compared to the huge creatures, but having too much of the latter won't benefit you in the early turns of the game where you can get easily swarmed or don't have enough lands to rebound from the damage taken. Burn decks and small creature swarms can prove your nemesis as well as bigger flying creatures. Prioritize removal for this case and keep in mind that one of the most useful non-toxic minis in green is Sky, Skive and Golfer, which has reach, meaning it can block flyers. The downside is the casting cost. These are the best commons and uncommons. Be sure to like the video if you found it helpful, and for the rares and mythics, it's pretty much up to what your packs will contain. But here are some of the greatest cards of the set you can pull for your draft deck. Archfiend of the Dross seems like a terrible bulk rare, but in a draft deck it can be a very powerful game changer because of its flying, and you have several turns to use him and an option to somehow sack him before the counters run out. Definitely don't pass on this guy if he shows up. Phyrexia Obliterator is one of the greatest black cards in Magic's history. Vraska is amazing for stalemates as her first ability not only draws you cards but also proliferates. One of the most OP green rares you can find in packs is Bloated Contaminator. A 4/4 with Trample and Toxic for only 3 mana that proliferates can give you a ridiculous early play advantage. Venerated Rot Priest seems small, but it proves very useful when it comes for countering removal. The opponents might prefer to get those poison counters and take out bigger threats, while the Rot Priest stays there seemingly harmless until you roll out your proliferators. The green mythic Tyrannex Rex is a non-counterable Phyrexian dinosaur with Trample, Ward 4, Haste and Toxic 4. That's an 8/8 for 7 mana. Pure raw power in late game. It makes Zopandrel, Hunger, Dominus seem less devastating, but keep in mind that the 4/6 has reach, can become indestructible and doubles the power and toughness of your creatures, Zopandrel included. Have fun in the draft. Hopefully these tips are going to let you build an amazing toxic deck and rock the tournament. Catch you in another video and have an awesome day. Bye.